Hey, everybody, welcome back to another beautiful day in real estate. We've got good things going on today. We've got everything packed into this episode. We're talking about oil. We're talking about Iran war. We're talking about 2008 versus 26. We're talking about unemployment. We're talking about debt due. It's going to be a packed episode. So make sure to like and follow because you guys, we're going to be diving into this stuff more and more every single week because right now our main focus is we want to establish more of a connection into what's actually going on rather than just jumping on a headline, right? Because the world lives on headlines. And if we can start providing a little bit more information behind those headlines, we're going to be off to the races. So first off, interest rates ticked up today. Finally, the FHA and the VA are above 6.04%. There was a lot of talk yesterday. They're saying interest rates are in the sevens once again. And yes, they were ticking that way. I mean, we might see the sevens again slightly, but here's the thing. I still am not genuinely that big concerned yet because this is playing a part. Why did oil jump up? It was down to 6.3 yesterday because we woke up this morning and Iran says they're no longer in ceasefire talks with the United States, saying it's illogical. So, excuse me. Those are the first things we have to focus on, okay? That right now, everybody is anticipating this war. This is what's drawing the uncertainty across the entirety of the market. Dude, I have even buyers and sellers that are like, we're going to wait to see what happens in Iran. I understand there's uncertainty, but the headlines, man, they're doing their job. They're making you all nervous. They're making everybody uncomfortable. But what we need to focus on is selling your house and getting you into a house this year. So we're going to kind of bypass that. It's just part of the update of what's going on. Now, oil's my next jump. So we're talking a little technical. So in my opinion, this oil opened today at 89, went all the way down to 86, and now we're on our way back up. So if this right here closes above, let's say 87, 88 bucks, I'm leading to believe we're going to see another push up because if you're a trader, then you know volume, smaller volume, less volume, and we move up. Again, I could be wrong, but correlating with this, I have a good assumption oil is going to make its move towards the hundreds again sometime here in the next couple of days, maybe a week. But I wouldn't hold our breath on that. Again, when oil moves, interest rates move. I think that I think the market's just forecasting it today. I think that's why interest rates are kind of moving the way they are. Anyhow, we've noticed that the 10-year Treasury bond is actually kind of coming down, which, you know, again, remember, there's a correlation between the 10-year bond and the mortgage rates, right? Usually you're going to see, I think it was 213 basis points in separation. So we're at 6.5 on average, 6.55, and it's at 4.32. That just means they're about a 2.13% difference in bonds because the bonds are being purchased by the bank for, or you know, they're paying 4% interest, the banks are, and then they're passing along a 2% gain for them so that you can borrow money with them. Anyways, long story short, again, there's not a huge amount of volatility. Something like this where we're seeing this much of a wick on top, I mean, that means that we're probably going to see more pressure down to the support at 4.27. Just depends on what's going on in Iran. Honestly, the bond market's going to vary based off of that. I mean, we can sit here and argue, hey, well, everything seems to be analytically or technically looking better, but honestly, this stuff isn't going to follow a normal trend or normal markets. It's going to follow what's going on in the real world, right? So let's talk on that a little bit more. So I got to say, AI is becoming my new favorite source of anything. I use it every single day, no matter what I do. I use it for work. I use it for learning things. I use it for pulling data for something like this today. So yesterday we talked about the 2008 versus 2006 market crash that we're anticipating, right? So I'm just wanted to showcase a little bit of the difference. So everybody's calling for a crash this year. We're going to see 2008 happen, the whole world ending. I'm going to show you why it's not. Okay. It's first off, I'm going to talk about foreclosures. So let's talk about foreclosures. Foreclosures in 2008, 2,330,000 filings and some change versus today. We are at 466,000. Just that alone, look at that gap. These are what's going to play a portion in the market crashing. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more at the end about the debt and a few more like why I think if we're going to see something happen, this is what's going to drive it. This is going to fuel it. But let's continue to compare. So foreclosures already, this gap is huge. I mean, we're talking 1.6 million. Well, I lied. 1.8 million in a gap versus, you know, across the board. Homes for sale. 2008, 4.5 million homes were for sale on the MLS, and we have 1.29 homes today. Again, substantial. Okay, that's a big difference. Okay, it's just simple. It's simple to me to see this stuff, but again, it's like I understand we're in a time right now where affordability is an issue, and the next graph I'll show you is mortgage defaults. Don't get me wrong, FHA, it's not looking great for them. But that just means for me, the first-time home buyers market right now is buying homes, trying to get into the market, and the market's outpricing them, which again is going to lead me to believe that moving into the end of this year, we have to see a shift to bring those first-time home buyers back in. I saw a video today that I was watching, and I'll dive into it. It was a Charlie Kirk video talking with Tucker Carlson, and it was a while ago, but it was before the Mondani mayor was put into office, and he was talking about why people are moving towards that socialistic mentality. Well, Gen Z, first-time home buyers, right now the average first-time home buyer is 40 years old. So when you are in your 20s and 30s trying to start a family, trying to generate some sort of wealth, and you can't get over that hurdle into home ownership, of course you're going to want to go somewhere else that's going to provide a potential certainty of what to expect, right? So if you're, right now the system isn't working for the younger generation. They're piled up in student loan debt. They're not making enough money. Inflation just destroyed them over the last few years. And now they're trying to get into a home. And to buy a home, you have to be paying minimum $3,000 a month. People are sick of it. And that is why we're starting to transition and see these bigger changes in bigger cities. And that actually stuck with me because it's like, why would we go towards a socialistic mentality? Because I know how the system works, right? I can pay attention, but people that don't study this every single day, all they see is their bank accounts hurting. They see they can't get into a house. They see they can't have a family. Insurance is absolutely ridiculous. The cost of product continues to go up. Their wages aren't increasing. Now they're getting laid off because of AI. People want certainty, and we haven't seen certainty in 5-6 years. I mean, we haven't seen certainty since before COVID, and I think that's also a big driving factor. People, this data here that shows me that people are trying to make it work, but this right here, we are seeing 11.5% of mortgage delinquency rates for FHA. Something has to change there. I mean, conventionals were good. I mean, conventionals I'm not even concerned about at all. But this is why, like I said, this is one of the big factors that might cause an issue. But again, you have to keep in mind, we're working on a solution for that. I'm not saying it's going to fix it overnight, but they're working on the Trump homes. They're going to put 1 million homes in the United States over the course of the next couple of years, et cetera, right? And they're working through that. That's what's going to get people into homes. They're removing regulation, which is good and bad. It's good for the builders. It's bad for the consumer because some builders are going to take advantage of that, and they're going to build homes that aren't up to standard, in my opinion. But until that happens, that's just something that we have to factor in. Now, home equity. This is another big one. Again, the gap is huge. Okay, we're in 2005, 2026. 3% of people are underwater in their mortgage rates right now versus in 2009, 23%, 27%, and 31%. The gap here is undeniable. It's undeniable right now. Okay, again, this is another big factor. So part of why everybody went belly up in 2008, it was because, why? Because people were getting loans they couldn't afford, and they were getting interest only. They were not getting pre-approved for homes they could afford. They were getting approved for any home they put an application in for. They didn't have to have a job. All they did was get an ARM loan, they got interest only, and they stepped into a home. People who own $1 million homes did not even have a job. Again, huge difference, okay? When people call for this 2008 crash, they're saying, oh, we're seeing this many sellers and this many buyers, so the market's going to crash. I see it literally everywhere, and that's not the only factor. Yes, it's going to play a factor in it. It might impact the market, but it's impacting bigger markets, right? My market is still at a 1.6% inventory, 1.6 months. So basically, I have 1.5 months of inventory, and I'm screwed. That's why as a builder, I'm just ready for this year, because right now I have a lot of people, like I have ghost listings where I post a rendering and it's going to get built, or a TBB to be built, and I get so many calls. People want houses. They're still buying in my market. Bigger cities, Florida, Miami, Orlando, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, those are the markets that have an oversaturation of inventory because the homes are so expensive, people can't buy them anymore. So again, we have to dissect this this a little bit and really look at the differences between 2026 and 2008, right? So there's a lot of different stuff. The subprime mortgages are starting to peak up for FHA buyers. Like we said, subprime versus FHA, subprime was 25% and FHA is 1 or 11% for deficiencies or for defaults, right? So again, big thing. Foreclosures are rising a lot lower or slower than they were before. So again, we're not in 2008, we're in 2026. So let's factor in what that means. Okay. There's a lot less buyers on the market. So which means what? So 42,000 US home purchases were canceled in February, which equates to 13% of all homes under contract, the highest cancellation percentage in any February on record. So 2024, 2023, it's a little bit, slim, pretty close, right? We're at, 13.2, 12.8, 12.8, and then we had COVID, right? So again, this trend isn't tremendously concerning. It just means that more buyers are not going to be taking homes unless they get what they want. I mean, when you're a seller and there's not many people looking for homes, obviously you're going to take the precedent. Obviously that's what a buyer's market is, right? They can come in, they can throw anything they want at you, and most sellers are going to jump on it. I witnessed it a couple of times last year where people were buying $270,000 homes or 1950 homes. They have problems. That's the problem. You're buying a $260,000 house, coming back with almost 6%, $8,000. Yeah, 6%, about 6% worth of repairs, $8,000 worth of repairs. And my sellers are like, deal. Because they have equity in their house. They're scared they're not going to sell it, and they don't want to roll the dice, right? That's, as a realtor, you need to be able to kind of help people. And I tried to explain to those people, like, guys, we have another deal coming. It may not be for a couple weeks here, but that's the market we're in. We're in a buyer's market right now. So buyers have tremendous amount of space to roam. So cancellations like that just means that sellers are still, in my mind, sellers are still up here saying my house is worth this and that's all it's worth, and I'm not going to fix things and I'm not going to repair things. I'm not going to give you concessions. And a buyer's like, fine, fuck it. I'm going to go somewhere else where I can get that. That's just what we're at, right? So again, different factors, but it's something that it's not crazy difference, right? So we just kind of have to pay attention to what this data means and really dissect it a little bit more. So on to the next. U.S. unemployment duration is surging at alarming rates. The average duration of unemployment jumped 2+ weeks in February from 20 to 25.7 weeks, a 4-year high. Okay. That we're talking COVID was the anomaly, right? Otherwise, across the board, 2022, and we've been higher since post-COVID, right? So I guess we can look at this a little bit. Median weeks, average weeks, etc. So the median, right, in between is about 11 weeks, but right now the average weeks is 25.7. Why? Because people are getting laid off, right? So that jumps into, oops, I might have had these backwards. Nope, just didn't have the right information up. Anyway, so let's pay attention to this a little bit. Meaning there's a lot more people that are going on the unemployment rate. There have been talks that we're going to see above 10% unemployment by the end of the next couple of years. It's not impossible to see. But back in early 2000s, 1999, when internet came about, people were saying the same thing. Nobody's going to have jobs. Internet's going to take away all these jobs, blah, blah, blah. It's going to evolve the market. It's going to evolve the way that we do business. It's going to be more efficient. It's going to be like, literally, we've complained about the cost wages. And don't get me wrong. I feel for most people, I kind of got out of touch with my year last year in real estate. And this year I really kind of sat back and talked to people and went through it. They're struggling right now because inflation is out of control. Their wages are not following the inflation by any stretch of the means. We had a 9% inflation rate in 23 or 24. I don't remember what year it was off the tip of my head. And people were getting 3% raises. That means you're losing 7%. You're not making any money that year. It's simple, right? And with COVID, again, it was that anomaly that really effed everything up and made everything feel so uncertain and so scary. But the difference is we're just going to evolve. So getting on my tangent, but the productivity is going to increase. That's what it's going to be. You're going to be able to do a job that needed 3 people with 1 person now. You're going to need, but this is also going to lead to a lot more people starting businesses because they'll have the capability to understand what it means to start a business, how to start a business. And if you are using ChatGPT, you're using Claude, you're using, shoot, there's so many out there at this point, but Claude's becoming my new favorite, by the way. Love it. It works great. I can integrate it into most of my programs, and they just came out with something talking about how they can do tasks for you and check off tasks, add them to your Google Calendar, stuff like that. That's for a guy who lives off his calendar. That's pretty nice. But if you're using it, you can talk to it with the conversation of like, okay, well, let's just say this. I have a listing that hasn't sold, and I literally did this. I went on to ChatGPT. I'm like, okay, so I have a listing. It's this many bedrooms, 6 bedroom, 4 bathrooms, 3,800 square feet. You know, I am trying to showcase this home in a better way. We had it priced here. We have it priced here now. The market is telling me this. Give me some pros of the neighborhood. Give me some cons of the neighborhood. Show me how to overcome those cons. And you can go in depth and be like, how can I make this work? And ask the questions. Most people are still using it as a search engine. They're like, how many different species of frogs is there? Click, and it spits out, right? Utilize it as somebody, like utilize it as a mentor in some ways. When you're asking the question, like if I'm buying in business, I'm sitting down with my mentor, I'm going to ask him, all right, man, I want to build this many homes this year. I need to do this. I have this much money. How can I step in? How can I create a partnership? Where can I show the credibility behind that partnership to create partnerships as a young entrepreneur? Blah, 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 right? Do the same thing with ChatGPT. Do it with Claude. I would recommend Claude now. But with Claude, go in there and just say, hey, I've been wanting, and turn on the voice and just say, hey, I've been working with, AI, or I've been working in this industry. I'm seeing my jobs are getting laid off. How can I take this skill that I've primarily been in and transition into AI? How can I create a small business? How can I create revenue? If I wanted to create revenue and work 30 hours a week, but still have time for my family, if I wanted to travel, is it possible to use my career and travel at the same time? Or this skill set, dude, it will take you in wild, wild places. So that's my encouragement for anybody watching today, dude. Start using AI because it's going to be the thing. Next, yesterday we talked about this. We brought it up slightly. It's better to buy US Treasuries than it is to buy single family rentals. The math collapsed. Yes, I told you guys this yesterday because right now the math makes more sense to go out and buy. This is awesome. Okay, so no more QE, no more quantitative easing, and zero interest rates means 10-year bonds are going back to normal. No more excess return from buying real estate. So the gap is 0.6%, less than 1%, and there's literally from an investor's perspective, most people are not going to want to do this. No, most people are not going to want to get into this. I mean, some people, young entrepreneurs that have time, energy, and they want to start building a career, or I don't know, wealth or whatnot. That's what that's there for. That's what people are going to start. You're going to start to see this more and more, but if you're a huge investor with a couple $100 million in the bank, why would you go invest into something that people destroy, right? So you might have a renter that cash flows, you build a little bit of equity, and then that renter leaves in 3 years and you have to replace the whole interior. You're basically washing your investment. Or you could plug that money into treasuries and you just make a return, you beat inflation, you sit back, you relax, you go sip your cocktail somewhere else. Like that's the difference, right? For COVID, up until COVID and end of COVID, when interest rates started going back up again, it made so much sense because you could borrow for basically nothing. Dude, I talked to investors, and these investors have 2 and 3 and 4% interest rates. And when you have that, you are walking away with money. And then rent went up, so pretty significantly, right? From like $900 a month to $1,500 a month in most cases. Unless you own those homes, people are going to start to steer away from that. That could draw, more inventory to the market, which gives more opportunity for buyers once again. But again, we're just moving into a different time in the market. Again, I don't think a market crash is coming, but it's something that we should be aware of, right? Because if we understand what's happening, we can start to progress. We can start to succeed. So as an agent, I'm here to guide people through. As a builder, I'm here to guide you to the end. Last thing we're going to touch on, record amount of U.S. federal debt is coming due. $10 trillion in the U.S. government will mature over the next 12 months, the most ever. This represents 33% of the outstanding marketable debt, one of the highest percentages on record. On top of that, the U.S. budget deficit this year is $2 trillion, while gross corporate bond issuance is expected to rise to $2 trillion, driven by surge supply from big tech. That brings a total investment grade supply hitting 2026 at $14 trillion. This flood of supply is putting upward pressure on interest rates and credit spreads at the worst possible time. The U.S. debt crisis is entering a new and more dangerous phase. Okay, this is where concern comes in for me. So right now there's a credit crisis happening. I wouldn't say crisis, but there's headlines that are saying crisis. It's just saying like JP Morgan, BlackRock, they're not letting private equity get pulled out of these private credit funds, or at least not all of it. I think we're going to see one of two things happen. Either A, they're going to let the market crash, which, I mean, come on, guys. We've been through enough of these up and down phases where I just don't see it. They're going to print the money. They're going to turn the money printer back on. Inflation's going to rip again, and people are going to get just effed on this, okay? So that's why I'm telling you again, get into real estate, because the big thing is money's probably going to print. They're probably going to drop interest rates, and they're more than likely going to see we're more than likely going to see things shift in the real estate market, which is going to transfer to hard assets, which is going to transfer, if most of you who don't have anything invested, you guys are going to be holding the bag with a high interest rate, or low interest rate, but high inflation. So you're going to be excited that your mortgage payment is going down, but you're also going to get screwed on how much you're paying for the house. Now's the time. This stuff is real. It is what it is. And like I said, there's a lot of doom and gloom in the market, but there's also positivity. We have to sift through the headlines to figure out what's going to work best for us, right? But anyways, that's what I have today. It was a little longer video. Thanks for watching, you guys, and I'm excited to keep bringing you more stuff throughout the weeks. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a beautiful day.